Alright, screen garbage is very common. Those of you that didn't try to do a difficult skirt piece aren't going to have any, but you'll get some on the next assignment. So I want to go over with you how to avoid it. And this skirt is an excellent example of taking the time to make something cool, and it's an amazing little marvel. But if you zoom in on it, I can see, and I remember helping fix screen garbage here, and you can see where some of the pieces cross over. So all she had to do was pick out certain pieces that worked really well, and they would sew together because the differences are quite minor. But it's slightly inconsistent, and in some areas it extends beyond the end, or it doesn't get there. And so it makes it more difficult. So what I'm going to do is recreate this piece in a way that I don't create screen garbage. So I'm going to start by verify measure line length, and I'm going to measure the circumference and the length because those are the two things it's going to ask me for. And it didn't give me that one for some reason. Okay, so I need a calculator. 13.5 divided by 2 times 4. Quick, somebody add that up. Calculator. 13.48 divided by 2 equals times 4 equals. Okay, so that's my circumference of the total waist, and that's the length of my skirt. So, oh dear. Oh, alright, it was looking a little different. So create piece, skirt, enter the values in the fields. So I want to show the center point. Well, for this one apparently I don't really need to show the center point. So my waist, what was it? 27. My waist is 27. That fits the dress form. And my length is 28. I'm going to put the center point in. I might not use it. Alright, so there we have a piece. I'm going to say, I said okay, so it gave me another one. So I'm going to say cancel because it will just keep making pieces. So now I'm going to create line mirror like we did when we created the piece the first time. So create line, mirror, select lines to mirror. I want all 3 of those, and I want to mirror around that line. And then I'm going to swap, modify line, swap clockwise and in order those 3 lines for this one. And I'm not going to need this center line, so I'm just going to delete that. Okay, so those are split. I don't want them split because I want to be able to divide that up, so I'm going to combine these 2 circular sections into one. Modify line, combine. So I'm going to start by not having screen garbage to begin with. I have a clean piece. I have no extra endpoints. I've got a continuous line, two straight lines, and another continuous line. So this is divided into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sections. So it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 reference points. And this one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the same number. So I'm going to go up to create points, multiple on a line. Select the line to receive the points. It goes all the way around. I don't want any on the first or the last end, and I can use drill or mark or notch. Marks are magnetized, so I'm going to choose marks and then apply. Nope. Oh, so okay. And now I need to enter the number 7 because I want 7 points. And there are my marks. And I'm going to do the same thing here. Say okay. And another 7. So I'm going to zoom in and remind you that as wonderful as this turned out, she had to spend a couple of hours cleaning up the non-joining of the lines in the first place. And this is a tricky one. I have to keep an eye on it because that's just cool and weird. So I'm going to go with 2-point lines. Touch the corner. I've highlighted the corner. I know I've got the corner, so I'm going to release. And now I'm coming up to that second point, and I'm going to touch, hold, slide, and highlight the mark. And it says mark, so I'm going to release. That's a clean join. There's just 2 points. And I'm going to continue on the same way. I'm not going to stop on an intermediate. I'm going to make sure I hit the mark point every time. And if I want to, I can highlight this line and get all the way to the end because it's right on the mark point already. So this one is coming up to the third one. Highlight and release. Did I hit it? I think I did. It said I had it. Yeah, and that's just creepy. Okay, so the critical part is touching down, highlighting the point, and taking it where it needs to go. So I'm on the second one from the corner, and it joins over here. Do I have enough to finish? No, I don't. So I've got that one, and this one, that one. I mean, you have to have an amazing mind to think of this. It's just, this is practicing. So I'm joining that line and coming down to the end of it. So I know those two are continuous. They're holding hands. They're going to hold water. And then my next one. It's on the mark point. I'm touching down, sliding over and holding till I highlight this line, and then I'm going to keep holding till I get to the end. Another perfect join. Now watch me not get a perfect join and then try to trace it off, and look at that, it's not. And neither is that. Okay, so how does that happen? So you have to be on top of it all the time. I missed. So I didn't miss on those two, but I missed on this one. So I have to delete that line, modify. It's easier to delete the line now than to fix it later. And that one looks like it's on, and that one looks like it's off, and that one is also off. So I need to be more careful about my initial contact point. So maybe I should start at the other end. Create 2-point line. Mark. Come back over to number 2, and I'm going to zoom in. And see, the first time I let it go where there was an intermediate point. Has to be on the mark. And I'm going to touch down right here, come over and join that line. And then touch down and hold and slide. Oh, I missed. Okay, so I'm going to touch, hold, slide, highlight the line, slide all the way to the end of the line, to the end point, and I made my connection. And I think one more of these and we should probably be okay. So, see, I don't have the mark there. I've got it now, and that one comes over to section number 2. And I'm just going to join that line and come to the end of it. So I'm going to cancel for a minute, and I'm going to get down the pieces. Wow, this is complicated. Oh, I think I understand. So this is the main piece that she traced off, and it's right here. And then these are the sections that it got cut up into, and the reason that it's pivoted is the grain line. So this one big piece was cut up into 1, 2, 3, 4 slices. Can you see that? This little one, 1, 2, 3, 4. So to recreate that piece, I want to make sure I've got it. Well, the easiest way is to come over and do a couple of more lines, I suppose. Guess that means I have to be careful and not miss again. But I could do it right here. So I'm going to try and align it. And modify set rotate. I want this line and that line. Okay. So that means I can get that piece by taking out that section right there, and it will be the same, roughly. So I'm going to move this back out of the way. One, two, three, 4 little pieces. So she's got her whole map, and then she's making another map of the piece, and then she's cutting it up. So create, trace, and I'm going to choose clockwise in an order. There's my piece. Say OK. Then I want to copy that line, and that line all to the piece. Say OK. So that is my skirt. We're going to call it No Garbage. And if some of you have made skirts with lots of garbage, you're going to find that it was simpler to just connect it very precisely the first time. So create piece trace. Okay, I like that. Have to say OK or it will disappear. You're saying OK to accept the name that the computer gave it. Okay, now I would have made it easier on myself if I would have cleaned up this one little piece of screen garbage that I didn't notice. Do you see right there? Probably not. But there is a little mark point, and there's a couple of different ways to get rid of that. I'm going to go into Edit Point Information because it's easier for you to see. And I'm going to highlight the corner. Do you see how it says mark right there? When I deselect mark and apply, mark goes away. And sometimes that can give you a problem. So before you trace things off, you want to make sure there's no mark points left over. So I'm going to get rid of that one, and there doesn't appear to be one right there. Point. Okay, so I believe I have a garbage-free piece. Now I'm going to show you something that I haven't explained before. And it has to do with lines. So if I go to Modify Line, we have under Modify Line multiple actions, but split, combine, and clip all kind of work together, only different. That's split, combine, and clip. If I split a line, I can choose to split it wherever I want, and it may or may not be in a convenient location. It might create screen garbage, but if I let the computer choose where to split the line, that's called clip. So the computer chooses, I tell it what I want, but it chooses. And then you avoid the screen garbage. So select the lines to clip on the side to keep. I want to clip this line, I want to keep this side of it, but I don't want that side of it. So next I get to clip the line it intersects with. So I just choose that one, cuts it off, matches exactly. And I want this part of the line, and I want it to clip right there. And I want this part of the line, and I want to clip where it touches that. I want this part of the line, and I want it to clip off where it touches that. So now everything is perfect. I wonder if that works on a grain line too. It does! Isn't that amazing? Okay. I'm always learning something new. At least a new way to do stuff. All right, while I'm here, I'm going to move this line over. Modify, line, move, and selection. Move the line. Okay, so now it's in the right part of the piece. But I also want my grain line, and I didn't add the grain line here. So I could mess with it and do things, or I could just fix the piece and the grain and not use those. I mean, I certainly could fix the grain on each piece. I could have the grain run from the point to the center on all of them. And on this skirt, the grain is going to be a decorative choice. So you're not stuck with just putting it together exactly on the straight of grain. In fact, I think these two pieces might be stronger if the straight of grain was exactly down the center. But I'm not sure what I'd do with this little guy. So you've got lots of options for the grain. I could come through and create a 2-point line, right-click, midpoint, choose the midpoint, and then choose the midpoint there, and that could end up being my grain line. And say, okay, if I want to use that for my grain line, I can align it on this section of the skirt. So modify, set, rotate, match point on the target piece. I have to get the piece to highlight, touch 2 points, touch 2 points, say cancel. And it actually flipped over because of the direction I had it going. So that could be a good way to do the grain line. And if I traced each of those pieces off now, and before I trace it off, I put notches on those lines, create notch. I don't want the notches in the center. I want them so that it's easy to tell apart. And I don't know that I like that one's okay. We'll just put a double notch right there. So now if I were to trace that piece off, that would be easy. There would be no garbage, no cleanup. Create piece trace. Say okay. Choose that as the grain line. There it is. I would just shorten the grain line. And compared to some of the trauma you are going to be going through because we were messy, if I hadn't said okay, it would have deleted. Grain line. This piece is just going to come together and take a lot less time. Than some of the things I've seen and the comments people have sent. Now instead of leaving the grain line, I'm going to say okay and remember to choose that one. So now my grain line has actually turned out perfect on all of them, and I could just add seam allowance and there won't be a hassle. I have people that will spend days getting rid of all of their little messy messes. Okay, and on this one, I'm thinking that it would be fun. Maybe I do one of those pieces polka dot and one striped and one something else. So if I know what fabric I'm using, I might want to choose the midpoint on this line, but I'm going to come all the way to the end point on that line. Well, now that was me not paying attention to what I was doing. I was highlighting this piece and trying to put the grain line on it. So I need to isolate them. 2 point, right click, midpoint, choose the line, switch to normal, choose the point. And I might do that on this one, but maybe I want my grain line to be parallel to this line. I'm going to switch it to there. If you touch the wrong place, just touch down on top of it again. Okay. So now I can realign all of those on my grain and change it if I want to. But to finish it up, just to show you and make sure that all of the grain, with those extra lines there, it isn't going to affect the seam allowance on the piece. So the place that people are getting into trouble with this assignment is when you start adding seam allowance. Your screen garbage really catches up to bite you. So I have everything I need. My grain lines are too long, but I'm going to go to Advanced and I'm going to define my seam, and I want to choose, if I could choose the middle of the piece, it would be better, but because of all those lines, it's making it more difficult for me. I can't even choose that one. So rather than going one at a time, this is no garbage number 7. So I'm going to come down here to the bottom, touch the little points, and come down to no garbage number 7. Only that piece can highlight. And then I got them all. Then I have to say clear so I can touch the rest. Now that I've chosen them all, I'm saying OK, and I'm going to put in 0.25. Okay, so I don't have any crazy weirdness happening, but I can come over here and pre-miter. I didn't get any of that computer swearing that I got on the last video. So if I come over to corners and do a mitered corner, I'm just going to touch the end and then set it down. And if I happen to have already swapped the seam, I would still want to move it aside and cut it off. So Advanced Seam Swap. And I can't, oh, there it is. So I can take those pieces and put them in the model all about screen garbage. So there's other ways to put them in the model. I'm going to deliberately forget to put them in the model. And all of my pieces, that one just says skirt. So I'm going to change the name to Messy Skirt and Clean Skirt. File, save as. Messy. And OK. All right. So I'm going to put some of them in, but not all of them. What that just was, I can take this, if I'm moving it, do you see how all those little things appear. I can have this end up at the bottom or on the side or on the other side. I'm going to go ahead and put it over there just to see. So now I can see my current pieces, and I can pin it so that it disappears, and then I can open it again over here. I kind of like the list over there. Okay, File, Create Edit Model, Add Pieces. Say OK, and I'm going to choose all of these so that I don't miss them. And this one. No, I don't need that one. Ah! Oh. Okay, this isn't part of it. I'm going to move it out of the way. Okay, so those are the pieces I have now, but I didn't get all of those. So I'm going to I'm going to close, and then I'll show you how to add them. So I have 11 on, ooh, that's scary. I'm going to cancel because I haven't saved all of these pieces. Save. So they're all saved now. And if I was smart, I would send them all to the menu. I try to be speedy so you don't have to watch so much. But then I'm teaching you bad habits. Alright, so now I'm going to close, and it says you have 2 unsaved pieces and 1 unsaved model, and I do want to save and exit. And I'm going to overwrite it and say OK. Alright, so this is my screen garbage skirt, and I'm going to double click on this because that's the model file and I can see what's over there. Now I'm inside the model file and I can see all the pieces that are in it. And I want more pieces in it. So I'm going to touch the next empty box and then the dots. And all of my garbage pieces are through here. So I'm touching the top one, holding down the shift key, and then touching the last one and say OK. So now I just got more pieces added, and my pieces are still messy because I didn't shorten the grain. And then I'm going to save the model. I could put a picture in right here. If I want to choose a sketch, click on the dots. If I had had my drawing in there of what this looks like finished, that's what it would look like. Then I have places for different fabric and how many pieces. But we'll come back to that on another day. because this is already overwhelming. So now I'm going to go back and open that in Pattern Design in a separate work area. So I can just go in with that model full of pieces. Now I have my autosave recovery pane right here, and I'm going to show you this because you don't always get it, and I want to keep it there, so I'm going to push the little save it there pin. Now I have autosave recovery and current pieces. So we just went over a second way to do a model, and I'm hoping you got the idea of how to connect your lines cleanly, because that can really create problems for you when you do your t-shirt. So now that I've drawn my lines in this section, if I'm thinking about it, I could just start by editing the point and choose that mark point, uncheck the box and say apply, so that when I trace that piece off, I'm not even going to get that in my piece at all. So you can, I'll put that on the video label, getting rid of marks, but this video is about screen garbage, so and there's nothing there anymore. And if you have that firmly in mind before you start making your t-shirt, it's going to take you half as long to make your t-shirt because you're not going to have to fix it. But I'm going to leave those there, so I'm not going to save it.